The sun was barely up over Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso's capital city. President Ibrahim Traoré stood by his office window, staring at the dusty streets below. Normally, his mornings were packed with meetings, talks with government ministers, security updates, calls with other world leaders. But today felt different. Something tugged at him, a feeling he couldn't ignore. He turned to his assistant, who was holding a stack of papers detailing the day's schedule. "Cancel everything," Traoré said firmly. "I'm going to visit Yalgado Ouédraogo Hospital. No cameras, no big crowd. Just me." The assistant opened his mouth to argue, but Traoré cut him off. "A leader who never walks among his people is like a tree with no roots. How can I fix problems I don't see with my own eyes?" By 7 a.m., Traoré's plain car pulled into the hospital parking lot. He stepped out wearing a simple cotton shirt, like any regular person might wear, followed by two bodyguards doing their best to blend in. The hospital director, who'd been warned just minutes earlier, rushed over looking nervous. "Mr. President, if we'd known you were coming—" Traoré smiled warmly. "That's why I didn't tell you. Show me the real hospital, not a fake cleaned-up version." The director nodded, wiping sweat from his forehead, and led the way inside. The hallways were packed. Crowded benches, mothers holding sick babies, elderly patients leaning against walls. The air smelled like medicine and sweat. Traoré moved slowly, stopping to talk to people. A young woman sat clutching a limp toddler. He crouched beside her. "Your child will get help soon," he promised, resting a hand on her shoulder. Nearby, an old man reached out with shaky hands. "You came," the man whispered, tears rolling down his wrinkled face. Traoré gripped his hand. "We're working to make life better." But as he walked further, Traoré's smile faded. He noticed cracked walls, peeling paint, rusty equipment. In the children's wing, Dr. Ouattara, a tired-looking doctor, showed him the newborn unit. "This is where we struggle the most," he said quietly, pointing to old incubators. A tiny baby lay wrapped in thin blankets, breathing weakly. Traoré's chest tightened. He'd faced wars and tough negotiations, but this quiet suffering hit harder. Then it happened. As they turned a corner near the ICU, Traoré's foot slid on a wet floor. He caught himself against the wall. "Careful, sir, floor's still wet," called a voice. He turned to see a cleaning woman in a faded blue uniform, her head wrapped in a traditional scarf. She kept her eyes down, clutching a mop bucket. "Sorry," she mumbled, backing away. But Traoré froze. Something about her face, the shape of her cheek maybe, or her posture, felt familiar. "What's your name?" he asked, louder than he meant to. She hesitated. "Aminata, sir." The name buzzed in his ears, stirring old memories. Dr. Ouattara urged him to keep moving, but Traoré stayed still, watching her hurry off. Aminata. Why did that name feel like a forgotten puzzle piece? For the rest of the visit, Traoré barely heard the doctor's explanations about missing supplies. His mind kept circling back to the cleaning woman. That afternoon, he asked his staff to quietly look into her. Aminata Ouédraogo, 63, a widow who'd mopped floors at the hospital for 23 years. That night, alone in his office, he dug out an old photo from a locked drawer. The colors were faded, but it showed his late mother Fatima holding his hand as a boy. At the edge of the photo stood a blurry figure in a headscarf, tied just like Aminata's. His finger traced the image, Mama Nana. The nickname popped into his head like a forgotten song. At sunrise, Traoré stood outside a small house in Dapoya, a busy neighborhood where chickens pecked at dirt yards. A young woman answered the door, her eyes wide. Inside, Aminata sat at a worn plastic table, steaming tea ready. She didn't stand up, just looked at him calmly. "You kept the bracelet," she said softly, sliding a beaded wristband toward him. Traoré's breath caught. Suddenly, he was 5 years old again, fiddling with those beads to calm his fears. The story poured out. His mother Fatima got sick when he was little. Aminata, their neighbor, took care of him. But when Fatima died, his uncle took him away to the city. "You called me Mama Nana," Aminata said, tears in her eyes. "For 2 years, you were like my son." Outside, motorbikes roared and street vendors shouted, but the room felt quiet, frozen in time. Traoré picked up the bracelet, hands shaking. "Why didn't you—" She shook her head. "What could a cleaning woman say to a president? I watched you from afar. When you joined the army, became leader. Every year on your birthday, I cooked your favorite rice and chicken, shared it with homeless kids." Her niece Fatou hovered in the doorway until Traoré waved her over. "Sit," he said, and she did, curiosity overcoming shyness. What happened next wasn't just a family reunion. It became a national story. Weeks later, at a televised event with government officials and village leaders, Traoré stood beside Aminata, who wore a bright blue dress with gold patterns. Cameras flashed as he spoke. "This woman taught me that leading isn't about power. It's about remembering who helped you when you were nobody." He announced the Roots of the Heart Foundation to support women raising kids who aren't their own. But the quiet moments mattered most. Aminata's first night in her new home, touching the walls like they might disappear. Traoré showing Fatou how to spin his childhood wooden top on the palace floor. Hospital patients standing taller when Aminata walked by, no longer in her cleaning uniform, but in colorful traditional clothes. Back in their old village, Koudougou, the celebration felt like a fairy tale. Elders poured homemade beer as an offering to ancestors. Kids wrapped Traoré in local fabric. Aminata knelt at Fatima's grave, pressing her forehead to the warm stone. "Your boy came home," she whispered. That night, as fireflies lit up the fields, Traoré sat with Aminata on a rickety bench. "Do you regret losing those years?" he asked. She smiled, wrinkles deepening. "Seeds grow in dark soil. You needed to become who you are to find me again." The story spread worldwide, not because a president thanked a cleaner, but because it showed how real connections happen in ordinary places, hospital hallways, village huts, between a lonely boy and the woman who wouldn't let him stay lost. Reporters uncovered more. Aminata secretly paying school fees for orphans for years. Traoré visiting shelters at night, his guards trailing behind. Some politicians called it a publicity stunt, but regular people understood. In markets and mosques, the tale became a symbol of hope, proof that no kind act, no matter how small, ever goes to waste. Years later, when Traoré revealed a statue at the hospital, a woman mopping while holding a child's hand, Aminata laughed. "You made me famous." He squeezed her shoulder. "We make each other matter." As sunlight glinted off the bronze figure, a nurse whispered to a janitor, "See? Even presidents slip sometimes. That's how we find what's real." And for a moment, the hospital's cracked walls didn't look broken. They looked loved, patched together by the quiet power of belonging.